Hey everyone, it's Rachel back with the Shades of Orange, and today I'm here to bring you a book haul. I have a ton of books to talk about. This is a combination of books that I received for Christmas, as well as books I received from publishers, as well as books I bought myself. So it should be a little bit of everything. I do have it broken down by genre, and then I have the gifts at the end, just because people get kind of weird about that. So if you don't want to see the books that I've received from friends and family, you can skip over that section. But yeah, hopefully I'll give you some good recommendations, a good idea of some of the books that are coming up in the new year, and yeah, let's get started. First, let's start with the horror books, and the first one I want to talk about is Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. And for those of you that have been following my channel, you're probably sick of hearing about this book because I included it on my most anticipated list of books for both horror and science fiction. And then I went on to put it on my TBR for 5-star predictions for 2022. And so I was really excited when I received a copy of it from Tor Nightfire. And this, if you somehow do not know, is a piece of space horror that involves a group of salvagers that go off to investigate a ship that is found. It is this old classy liner that disappeared and then is found again, and when they go onto the ship, possibly it is haunted. I have heard some mixed reviews from the early reviewers, but I'm going in with an open mind. I'm very excited for this one, and I definitely hope it's going to work really well for me. You will definitely be hearing about it in an upcoming review. I believe it's coming out the beginning of February now, and you will definitely hear my thoughts, and hopefully I will love it as much as I think I will. Next up, from Turner Publishing, I received a copy of A Black and Endless Sky by Matthew Lyons, and this is another book that was in my anticipated releases video. And I understand that this story follows two siblings that go on a road trip. They used to be really close, and then they fell apart, and now they are trying to make amends and get back together, and they pull off on the side of the road, I think, and things go terribly wrong. I actually don't know too much about it, but I do sometimes enjoy a good road trip story, and I'm just excited for this one. I don't know, I have a good feeling about it, whatever that means, and I'm just really looking forward to trying it. And yeah, as always, I will keep you posted. I believe this one comes out in March. Then I was really excited to receive a copy of Echo by Thomas Old Whovelt. This again was a book that was on my anticipated release video. This, I understand, is about a man who goes on an expedition with his friend. Something goes wrong in the mountainside, and he wakes up from a coma to find out that his friend is dead. And of course, there's more going on in the story, and the story goes from there. I was really excited for this one because I loved the first story that was translated by this author years ago, Hex. It was one of the first horror reviews I ever did on my channel, and it's probably terrible, so please don't go watch it. But I've been really looking forward to this newest book, definitely hoping it's going to be right up my alley. I'm not really sure if it's going to be survival horror or possession horror. I don't want to go in and know too much beforehand, so I'm just kind of gonna try it a little bit blind for myself. But I was incredibly excited because in the same box they also sent me an updated copy of Hex, and I gotta say the new edition looks absolutely beautiful. If you have not yet read this one, highly recommend. This one is set in a small town where there is a witch, and the entire town has to keep this a secret, and so they control the social media and all the outlets and really try to keep everything under wraps. Of course, the young people in the town, the teenagers, don't really want to follow the rules, and so they end up leaking information about the witch, and terrible things ensue. I really like this story, but it has been years and years since I read it. I've only read it once, so I'm really overdue for a reread, so I think this would be the perfect time to revisit it on my channel, see how my feelings have changed, and give you a chance to hear my thoughts on this updated edition. I don't know if it's been re-edited or anything, but like I said, the cover is absolutely gorgeous, and I'm really excited to return to this one as well. And finally for horror is one I bought myself, and that was a beautiful hardcover edition of Stranded by Bracken McLeod. This is a bit of a cold weather survival story that follows a group of fishermen that get stranded out in the Arctic weather. They go off to find help. Everyone on the ship is getting sick. They are possibly running out of food, and they find something in the distance, and what they find changes everything. This is actually the January pick for my Patreon book club, which I always have linked down below. So if you want to join us, you're definitely welcome to do so. This is a book I've actually read before, and so I reread it for the book club. And if you want to hear my more detailed thoughts and discuss all of the spoilers, you can definitely go check it out in the Discord that I have linked through my Patreon. But regardless, I was really excited to get a copy of this, and admittedly, I picked it up because I needed free shipping on something else I bought, which I'll get to in a moment. And so I spent $8 on this, and it got me to free shipping, which was cheaper than, or at least reasonably the same price as having to pay for shipping. So, you know, if it's a choice between paying for shipping or getting an extra book, unsurprisingly, I will always be a sucker and throw an extra book in the cart. Is anyone else the same? Anyway, moving on. Now, let's talk science fiction, and I have a lot of books to get through. So first up, I was very excited to receive a copy from Tour of the Cashew Preservation Society by John Scalzi. This, yet again, was on my anticipated release video, as well as on my predictions for 5-star reads for the new year. And I understand that this book is set in modern times when all of the current political and world events are happening, and it follows a man who ends up getting pulled into this multiverse society to save these creatures. And it just sounds like a lot of fun. I've always enjoyed John Scalzi's work, and I'm waiting for one to be a 5-star read, and I'm very excited for this. So yeah, I was super excited to get an early copy. How many times can I say excited? That's the problem with these book haul videos, is that it's so hard not to sound repetitive on camera. But yeah, I was very happy when this arrived in the mail, I'll say that. Anyway, review to come in, I believe, February, when this will be released, or rather March. It might have been pushed back. Next, I want to talk about You Sexy Thing by Kat Rambo, and this is a space opera that is just really fun and entertaining. It follows a group of ex-military people who have gone off to start a restaurant in space. However, they get pulled into a larger story and an adventure ensues, and they have to protect the restaurant, and it's just really fun. So you can probably tell from that synopsis that this is not serious. This is not epic. It's only one book right now. It's a standalone, and it's not super long. I have already reviewed it, so you can definitely go check out that for my longer thoughts. But yeah, I just thought it was fun. It definitely gave me Becky Chamber vibes, where it's a very optimistic future, tons of diverse aliens, and conversations, of course, around food and alien food. And I think if you love, again, like sci-fi elements and also those like restaurant elements that we get in all these reality TV shows, which I personally love, then I think that you might really enjoy this one as well, for more of a light-hearted palate cleanser between some of the heavy books we like to read. And I'm not sure if this one is more speculative fiction, but I'm putting it here, and that is The Temps by Andrew de Jong. And this is another book I received from Turner Publishing. It is coming out, I believe, in March, and this, I understand, is a story that is set possibly during this post-apocalyptic event or apocalyptic event, and we follow a group of temporary employees that have to survive in this office building. I am really excited for this one. It does sound more satirical and funny than some of the books I normally am drawn to, but I also think it's going to be super topical given current events and just the life of being like a young, underemployed person. I think I'm a little bit past that stage now, but I definitely think I'm going to relate to this one, and yeah, I'm really hoping that it will deliver just that entertaining, smart, snarky story that I'm hoping for. So again, review to come soon. And I was very excited to receive copies of the Nova Vitra Protocol trilogy that came out from Orbit Books. I've already reviewed it. The first book is Fortuna. These covers are gorgeous. The second one is Memorphia. I admit I still have to look at the covers to remember it. And the final book, which just came out completing the trilogy, is Discordia. And while I can barely pronounce these names, I did enjoy them. These are a set of space opera books that follow a family that are in this smuggling business, and we follow the story from a few different perspectives, one being the daughter who's supposed to take over the business, and then her brother comes back, and of course they get pulled into a larger story and have to deal with more serious events and decide whether or not to just hide out or actually take action. And I will say these are more lighthearted than some of the books, again, I'm drawn to. My all-time favorite books tend to be a little bit more serious in just the tone of the story, but I do think that this book hits on a lot of the good tropes, and the books kind of, as you go on, the characters mature a lot. You see some character development as they have to take on more responsibility, and yeah, I just think they're really fun, so I really was excited to get the chance to binge through the entire trilogy and give you a review, which again is already live on my channel. And I did buy myself a science fiction book, so that was Leviathan Falls by James S. A. Corey, which I have a whole spoilery discussion on my channel. I have reviewed it for you all. I really liked it. I own the rest of the other 8 books, and the last several I have all in hardcover, so I was anxious to get a copy for myself. It's a book that I have already read twice since it came out, and I know I'm going to read it again and again. It's one of my favorite science fiction series, and so I knew I wanted a copy. So my husband was so kind as to let me use his gift card from, I think it was a Christmas gift last year, and he let me spend out that money in order to buy this book because I begged the publishers for a copy, but unsurprisingly, review copies were really hard to come by, and so I had to patiently or impatiently wait for a copy to be available and buy it myself. So yeah, you know how much I love this one. Moving right along. Now, switching gears to fantasy, I want to talk about The Helm of Midnight by Marina J. Lastatter, and this is a book that I received from Tora Books. This is a piece of epic fantasy that is set in an urban setting, and it follows multiple points of view following a inspector who is set out to investigate what happened to a mask that was stolen, and this mask used to belong to a serial killer. And this story basically is a fantasy story involving a serial killer, so naturally I loved it, which is why it ended up on my list of best fantasy published in 2021. Hopefully you've seen that video. If not, I will try to remember to link it in the cards. But essentially, I really enjoyed this book. It is very dark, and the magic system is really interesting because it involves imbuing objects with emotion. And so you can imagine that a mask imbued by a serial killer could be really dangerous, and possibly some copycat behavior is going to ensue. And so I'm really excited. It's only the beginning of a series. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or more, but I'm definitely excited to return to this. So I'm definitely hoping to read the later books in the series. But yeah, this one was quite a treat. Then from Tor.com, I received a copy of Servant Mage by Kate Elliott. And this sounds like a really simple story, but I'm really interested in trying it for myself because I want to read more Kate Elliott. And this, I understand, follows the mage servant who is called out on this epic adventure and goes off to do that. And it just sounds something honestly in the vein of like The Hobbit. So again, more classic than some of the fantasy I'm normally drawn to, but it's only a novella, it's very short, and I'm just interested to see her perspective on it, what she will bring new to it, and it just sounds, yeah, really entertaining and hopefully will make for a short, fun read. Then from Angry Robot Books, I received a copy of Spider Touch by Alex Thompson, which is one of the last books that came out in the end of 2021, so I've already reviewed it. But this is a really cool fantasy story that is set in a world where there are these overlords that are ruling over this other body of people, and in order to communicate with them, we follow a man who has been trained since he was a child how to communicate. And their communication is actually through touch, so think of something like sign language, but involving physical touching between their hands in order to communicate different nuances and words. And I gotta say, the story was interesting, but the language was so cool, and so that was definitely my favorite aspect of the story. And again, if you want my longer thoughts, you can check out my review. But yeah, if you want a story with a really cool language system that is woven into the narrative, I thought that this one was really unique. And I also treated myself to one book that I picked up at a used bookstore using some store credit. That is The Rise and Fall of D.O.D.O. by Neil Stephenson and Nicole Gladden. I've been wanting to read more Neil Stephenson, and so I ended up messaging a few of my friends, and different people had different answers, but I ended up going with Rachel from Kalanadi's response because she said that this book was really fun, and I decided that that was kind of what I was in the mood for, and she was so right. So I'm currently reading this. I'm at this point at the time of recording this video, and essentially, I don't even know how to describe this book. It is a story that involves like a secret society, there is time travel, and it's the idea that magic used to exist in the world, and then it stopped, and so the society is trying to investigate what happened, and it's just really interesting. So it is fantasy, but because it's done by Neil Stephenson, he also brings in a lot of science. Right at the beginning, they're talking about Schrodinger's cat and quantum theory and other ideas like that. And so I'm definitely geeking out as I read this. And yeah, it's just a lot more lighthearted, and it's quite different than a lot of the other Neil Stephenson I have read. But I like that. I'm actually thinking that he could be a new favorite author of mine just because I do like authors with range that can tell different kinds of stories. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this. Also, I'm really trying to work on on when I buy books, making sure that I'm buying books that I can read right away, because it was really enjoyable that I bought this book, I brought it home, and then within 24 hours, I was picking it up and reading it. Because I have gotten in the bad habit in the last year of buying books that were just really cheap on sites like Book Outlet, which again I have a link for if you want to go check it out for yourself. But the issue is that the books that I were buying were books that I had promised to save for different buddy reads, and in doing so, I would buy books and they are still sitting on my shelf unread, which just makes me sad, because for me, I find the best experience when reading books is always reading them right after I get them. And so having to wait just kind of diminishes my excitement for them. So I'm really going to work on being smart about what I'm buying. So if I am going to buy any unread books in the new year, I'm going to try really hard to only buy books that I can pick up and read right away. We'll see how that goes. But anyway, this one was a real treat. And again, I'm still reading through it, so you'll get my review hopefully within a week or so. And now we're on to the final section of the video, and that is the books that I received as gifts for Christmas. This came from both online friends as well as my husband. And I just got to start by saying I'm incredibly thankful for everyone who was so generous as to send me something off of my Amazon wish list. It really did make for a wonderful Christmas and some wonderful surprises. So the first book I want to show here is Upon a Burning Throne. This is a book that I received from a fellow booktuber and friend, Paulina, and I'm going to have her channel linked down below because she is another booktuber herself, and she reads a little bit of everything. But again, if you love things like horror, all of that, it's a major focus of her channel, and I just think she does a lot of really creative videos, so definitely go check her out. That's not the reason that she sent it. She is just a sweetheart. She sent not only this, but also gifts for my son. He got a little Paw Patrol truck, which he loves, but I didn't think anyone wanted me to haul that on camera. But the book that she sent is this one here, which actually ended up being one of the books that I named on my predictions of 5-star reads for 2022. And I filmed that video, and I think this book showed up the next day. And because I'm a terrible person, I definitely opened her book immediately instead of waiting for Christmas. But she was so sweet as to be okay with that. If you don't know, this is an epic fantasy that is inspired by East Indian culture, which is where the book was originally written in. So again, I love own voices stories from authors that are from those regions. And yeah, I've heard amazing things about it from a lot of my bookish friends, and so I'm really excited to dive into it. There's already one other book published, and then I think the third book is coming out early in the spring, so I'm hoping to catch up with publication. And yeah, I just high hopes that I'm going to love this one as much as I think I do. Thank you so much, Paulina. You are beyond generous and kind. And speaking of kind and generous people, my friend Mike also sent me 2 books in the mail, and they were The Last Kingdom Volume 1 and Volume 2. If you're not familiar, this is actually a historical Chinese story, so it's not fantasy, but rather set around real events, and it is a romanticized version of what happened in ancient China following these 3 major kingdoms that were vying for control of the empire. And my husband and I are currently reading, or watching rather, through the TV show, and we are so hooked in. People have pitched this as the Chinese Game of Thrones, and it is so true, because again, it's all about vying for power and trying to come out on top, and it's full of like political intrigue, and I am so hooked into it. So this gift came at the perfect time because we are still watching through the show. So what I'm doing is we watch through part of the show, and then I read those chapters, and I'm kind of keeping pace with our watch. So he sent me the first book, which I've now finished, and at the time recording this, I am partway through book 2, but I'm taking my time because again, we just watched an episode this morning, and so I only read those chapters because I'm kind of enjoying, again, being surprised by the TV show, but then having the book to fall back on and get those additional details. So I was really excited. It's actually 3 volumes long, and so that's where my husband came in, because as part of his Christmas present, he gave me the last and final volume. So I have not gotten to this one yet. Again, I'm waiting to be caught up with the show, but I'm really enjoying this. I definitely, would recommend the TV show and the books to those of you that enjoy that. I know I don't really talk about a lot of historical fiction on my channel, but every once in a while I do get hooked into something, and yeah, this is definitely a new obsession of mine. My husband also sent me a copy of Descender, the first volume, and probably what is my favorite science fiction graphic novel. I have at some point reviewed this on my channel. I've named it as a favorite, and it has the most beautiful watercolor artwork I've ever seen, and this is just a book book that I love to reread, and because the artwork is so beautiful, I really enjoy having a physical copy of it. So I was really excited when he picked this up for me. It's one that involves artificial intelligence. It definitely gives me Star Wars vibes, and I really love it a lot. So very grateful to have a copy of the first volume there. And then my husband sent me copies of Legends of the Galactic Heroes, the second and third volume, only because the first volume just does not exist online. I'm hoping eventually they will reprint it. This is part of a longer running series, but I decided to only request the first couple books, but I definitely think it's going to be a favorite. I believe there is an anime inspired by it, and this book, or this series rather, is translated from Japanese, and it just sounds like epic space opera that is going to be diverse and different, and again, I really hope it's going to be a favorite, so I'm very excited to get to it, but I do have to wait on a buddy read for this one, so hopefully I get to this one soon. And the last book that my husband sent me as part of my Christmas gift was Orbital Cloud, and this is a book that I actually know very little about. I believe it involves orbital mechanics. It is translated from Japanese, and I've seen a few booktube friends talk about it. I believe Rachel from Kalanadi discussed this one, and it's again a book that I could not get through any other resource, not audio, not physical, and I just decided that it was a book I believe I'm going to love enough that I want to take a chance and pick up a copy. So I was really excited to finally get a chance to read this book because it's been on my TBR for years and years, and I just never had a method to read it. So again, I try to be strategic with my TBR and my Amazon wish list of really being thoughtful of, you know, avoiding books that I can readily get through my library, etc. But anyway, I'm definitely hoping to read this one soon. I believe it's hard science fiction, and I'm really hoping it's going to be a new favorite. So yes, thank you so much, husband. You did well. He asked what I wanted for Christmas this year, and I said books, and he listened. So that is all that a bookish reader like myself could ask for from a spouse. So that is everything for this video here. I would love to hear of the books I talked about, which ones are you most interested in me reviewing in upcoming videos, or if you're planning on checking out any of them for yourself, I'd love to know that as well. Let me know if you received any books over the Christmas holidays, and thank you so much once again to Paulina, Mike, and my husband for sending me books. It is always a wonderful treat. My plan for the new year, we'll see how this goes, is to put myself on a temporary book ban. So with a few minor exceptions, because I have a few months of Audible left on a sale that I picked up a few months for. For the most part, I'm going to try not to buy any books until at least my birthday in July, or possibly even holding off until all of the good year-end sales, because I'm just really trying to tighten up our book budget. I went way over budget in the last year, and I just need to rein that in a little bit. So I'm hoping to hold off maybe doing another book outlet sale until you know, the end of the year, when all the Black Friday sales come out, and kind of saving things for my Amazon wish list and kind of saving that, and hopefully getting my husband to pick up some more for my birthdays. So we'll see how that goes. I will keep you posted either way. I do have a few more books to haul that I didn't get to include in this video here, so don't worry, there's definitely going to be another book haul coming. But that's the plan right now. Is anyone in the same boat, trying to tighten up that budget for the new year and hopefully control themselves a little bit more? Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you're new to my channel, I do read a lot of horror, thriller, science fiction, and fantasy. You can help me out by giving this video a thumbs up, sharing it around online. Even if you just drop a comment with an emoji, it helps me out, and I will talk to you again soon in another video. Thanks for watching. Okay, bye-bye.